So last week I bought myself the Panther tank, okay, to do Sven Hassel tribute. Postman's been this morning and we have got something else in here, so what could it possibly be? Oh, it's the Panzer Kampfwagen 4, Panzer 4, look at that, Ausf.D. So let's have a little look in here, shall we? Right, it's all bagged up. I have to take them out before we have a proper look. There's my rubber tracks, my Tamiya tech tips, and my two sets of instructions, one in Japanese, one in English. So, have a little look. Panzer Kampfwagen 4, Ausf.D, 135 scale. That's a cool little tank. Short gun, and it says with their long 7.5cm guns. So, this kit dates from the 90s. Okay, now let's have a little butchers. Oh look, that's cool pictures. Look at that. Yeah, awesome. So start off with a rear panel and wheels, although obviously I'll do the hull first so I can then spray behind that before I put the wheels on. All looks good. Late version, slightly different. Upper hull. The turret. Look at that, all hatching. Nice. Divisional mark, position, rear positions, look at that, the numbers, so on. That's all looking pretty damn cool. There's your parts lists. Brilliant. So out of the bag I've got these little bits, these go onto the wheels, stop falling off. Here's all your decals, your water slide transfers. They came in the sprue with all the wheels on. Wheels, bits of track, suspension, that kind of thing. Next one was this one. So what we got, various bits, including your crew. Well, for an old kit, I'm surprised it's really crisp. Okay, you got really good detail on there. The molds clearly aren't that worn out. There's your hull. And then this bag had two sprues. So we got the upper deck, the turret in a couple of halves. There's your tank commander. Look, he's even got his earphones separated. Now that's really nice moulding. It's a nice dark grey, okay, which would be early war grey. I'm going to be going for a Russian front scheme. But yeah, look at that. This looks quite a complex kit. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Look, see, that's a lovely bit of detail on there. Lovely moulding. I reckon I'll be really happy with this kit. So we shall pop that back in the box for now because we have got the Panther to crack on with. But it's here. Now this is a 15 quid kit. Now, by the look of it, that's an absolute bargain. It's a deal. It's a steal. It's the sale of the century. Look at that. Well pleased with all that. So, we will have to pop that all away now. Look at that. Done one tank in my whole life, and now I've got two on boil. A week apart. There we go. Good night, Josephine. I've made a start on the construction now. So I'm doing the hull first. So I fitted the suspension, the hub for the sprocket and support rollers, along with the rear panel with all the exhaust bits and bobs here. They're all attached now. Now I've got to go onto the wheels. So we've got sprockets and wheels there. For a tracked vehicle, there's a hell of a lot of wheels. That's one bit I don't enjoy. Now, what it says in the instructions is to do the exhaust bits on the rear panel first, then the wheels, then the hull. However, I've done that part of the hull first, with the rear panel, simply so I can paint that first of all and then start putting the wheels one set at a time. Well, time to get on with the painting. So this is the hull being done first, so I can get a good coverage on there, and then I'm going to do the rear of the wheels and the sprockets. So I'm going to airbrush all that into a nice grey, and then I'll apply a bit of weathering as well before I put the wheels on and do the other side of it, so there's weathering behind everything, and then we'll go from there. But I've got obviously the tyres to paint for the road wheels, so they've got to be blacked. So yeah, quite a job ahead of me, I think. So I'm working on upper hull A now. So I fitted the rear panels, fitted the front panels, those two there slightly open. There's a load of little bits and bobs. I've cut them out and put them separately into a little bag to save for later, because otherwise they're just going to be bust when I'm doing stuff. Then on the next stage, it shows you that these bits are only fitted on the African version, whereas they would have gone in there. So there we go. So I'm doing the late version, but not the African bits. It's all quite complicated. Get my head around it. So now I'm going on to the next part of the upper hull. God, it's confusing. That bit first. Well, it's all quite confusing, but I got there in the end. So you've got to fit extra bits of armour there, and on the other side there and there. And then a little carrying stowage rack on the back there. Yeah. Took a bit of head scratching, but I got there in the end. You just got to pay really good attention to the instructions and what's written alongside as well. Well, the gun is pretty complicated. And then so is the turret. Turret's in two halves. So it's got to be fixed after. So start off, there's all the bits cut out for the gun. I've just got to obviously clean up the pins where it's attached to the sprues. But I'll do that first, let that dry before I even think about putting the turret together. Well, there's a gun assembled. That's quite a lot of fiddly hard work, to be fair. But it should in theory go up and down, and it should in theory fit. We'll see about that later, won't we? Next is to glue the two halves of the gun turret together. Then the gun will slot in there. There's a couple of little bits to go on the side there as well. So those two bits that go on the rear, they're only for the African version, so I'm going to leave them. I'm not going to do those little bits that come up from the turret just yet, or the side doors. I've put the top plate on, however. So there we go. So that's going to give me a bit of strength once it's all dried off, so that I can take away that seam, for example, fill and smooth and flatten that. So yeah, now then the gun got to go on sideways and then turn, but that will be something like that. I've been really bad, so I forgot to tell you what's going on. So I've put the hatches on there. I'm not sure where I last was. I've put the turret together. Okay, so the two halves, and then got rid of the seam and sanded it down. I'll fill it a bit as well. I've added on the turret top. Those hatches have just slipped. And there's kind of a gun support, so I'm just going to have to move them back. The two hatches on the side I've left slightly open. Those are glued in position. These aren't set yet. I've just got to fiddle with them. Anyway, I've just glued the deck to the hull, literally just now, a moment ago. So let's hope that will all settle. So that's how it's looking at the moment. That gun support thing just looks a bit weird to me, so I'm going to check online for some photos, because the instructions aren't all that clear, to be honest, on this. All these tiny weeny little bits and bobs you got to put on, absolute nightmare with my old eyes. So I've done a base coat of Panzer grey on the turret and the hull. I've also done a base coat onto the tracks. They're going to get more colours to weather them. But yeah, it's looking pretty nice. Quite happy. So there's a few spots that I can see need a little bit of tidying up, like that corner there. There's a slight raise. The base coat is quite useful for that. There's a little bit on the edge there as well. So I've cut out all the extra little accessories, the final pieces that need painting separately, ready to stick on the back. There's spare track links, all the little tools and buckets, the tow cable and the rommel kit, so which is a rear storage bin that goes on the back of the turret. Time for a bit more spraying. So a little dusting of metallic onto the tracks. There's the accessories that need to fit on the hull, and there's the spare track links. They're going to get another colour on top, but they're going to get a slight dust in the metallic first. Now it's time to put a bit of paint on it here. So I'm going for 1942 Russian camo scheme of the Panzer grey with ochre, dark yellow. So there we go, Panzer grey and dark gold. If I'm completely honest, I'm not all that enamoured with this scheme. Looked far better on some pictures I found on the net. Well, I've toned down some of the yellow by putting a bit more grey on there, because it needs to be 1/3 yellow, 2/3 grey. I've also fitted the tracks. So I flattened the pins by heating up a piece of metal and then put them on. Next stage is to fit all these bits and bobs. So I've also got to just pick out the details. So for example, the axe helve shouldn't be metallic, just the axe head. Same with the shovel. The rammer on the gun cleaner there, that needs to be painted slightly different. But the main part is metallic. Same with the handles on things. So they've got to be done and put on. I'm not convinced about keeping the jerry cans grey. The wheels will need to be picked out with black as well, obviously, on the tyres. Tracks are ready to go on, track links. Well, construction is complete. I've fitted the tracks and all the little accessories I'm going to fit. I'm not putting the bucket on, I'm not putting the spare wheels on. The spare wheel holders are the wrong depth for the spare wheels, so I've left them off. So I've painted up the tracks and the shovel, the crowbar, the jerry cans, the jack, the axe. There we go, all these other bits here, there's wire cutters, wrenches and so on. The spare track links down the bottom and on the top of the front deck. Got my jerry cans and the exhaust is all painted up. So that requires now the addition of decals. Now that I've picked out all the details and so on and things. So decals on and then weathering. As you can see, I did tone down the amount of yellow on there and I think it looks a lot better. So I've got my turret numbers on, just a 2-1, I'm not putting the 5 for the company because there's not really room. Got my 11 Panzer division marking there. German cross on the back of the rommel kister, and another 2-1 on the back there. Of course there's a German cross there. Very difficult to actually fit the decals on, especially with this rear jerry can carrying tray, because of course there should be a German cross behind there, but not to worry. Did find pictures of a Panzer IV in Milan with the German cross there as well, so that's fine. So yeah, I think that is done by the weathering. So let all the decals dry and we can blast it over with the airbrush. There we are, all done and, well, and dusted. So I've had the airbrush out and I've dusted all along the wheels there. Okay, and the underside. And at the front as well. There we go. Oh, actually, assignment Gestapo, look at that. They got the links there as well. That's a Panzer IV. Sweet. Well, that's that finished. All the tools and the decals and the dusting, the airbrushing. So I've gone down there, put a load of dust and dirt from driving along. There we go, dusted up the track links as well. Bit of dust over the 11 Panzer Division decal on the front there. All the accessories looking good. Let's tone down that yellowy green as well. toned down the grey as well. So the contrast is down, and that's nice. I reckon that's complete.